Hey Browns fans, this is Jason Ice, and today we're going to do the 2012 version of Understanding the Draft. Um, Now, I do this, I'm not trying to criticize the draft, I'm not trying to defend what they did in the draft, I'm just trying to understand what they were thinking as they go through the draft and see if we can't make sense of it all. If I had to pick just one word to describe this draft, the word I would pick is reaching. A lot of their picks seem to be guys that you thought maybe they'd be available later in the round or later in the next round or later in the draft overall. Management showed a lot of impatience in this draft. They didn't seem to be able to wait and let the draft come to them. They kind of fought the current, and maybe it came from a little bit of a we got to win now mentality, which is great. I'll take winning anytime as a Browns fan. So reaching isn't necessarily a bad thing. You have to look at it from a risk versus reward type of scenario. For example, if we don't trade down, or if we don't trade up to 3, and somebody else does and grabs Trent Richardson, what's left for us? We could get Blackman, who we had lower in the first round, maybe is the 6th overall or something like that. Or we could go for Claiborne, the defensive back, which, obviously their goal was to work on the offense in this draft. So it costs us 3 pretty darn low draft picks to move up and make sure that we're the ones that grab this guy who our scouts had to have rated as the top guy on the board. We had 13 picks in this draft, and that's a lot of currency for the draft to be able to spend to move up and down to get those guys, where you want them and make sure you get them. So the question is, was he worth a 4th, a 6th, and a 7th to move up to make sure you get Trent Richardson? And honestly, only time will tell. We'll have to see how he does. I don't like taking a running back that high in the draft. I don't care who the running back is. I don't care if it's Adrian Peterson. He's not bringing wins to Minnesota. They drafted above us. Running backs have a short career span, as short as any position in the NFL, because they take the most beating. They touch the ball 20 times every game if you get a good one, and that means they're getting tackled and hit 20 times a game. It requires some of the most athletic people in the game. So once you hit 30, your athleticism starts going down. As a running back, your career is on death watch. Another problem with running backs drafted high is in the last decade, only one running back drafted in the top 10 of any draft has really earned his high draft status. And we all know who that is. And hopefully Trent Richardson will be the second one to earn that. But this guy, if I want to criticize him personally, the things I could say about him is he was the victim of the media love affair that happens every single draft. Reggie Bush, the greatest running back to come out since, it's garbage. The media latches onto these guys and makes them sound a whole lot better than they are. He couldn't even beat out Mark Ingram at Alabama. So there's questions, and we all know what Jim Brown said about him. Maybe he's not that great. Now, honestly, still, from what I've seen, he looks pretty darn solid. He's a multi-use guy. He's not just a runner. He can catch, and he's a great willing blocker. My criticism is not for him as a draftable prospect. It's mostly just from taking a running back so high. And I hope he proves me wrong and has a great 10-year career with the Browns. Next, let's look at Brandon Weeden, 22nd overall. Is that a reach for him? Probably. He probably would have fallen below that. I believe the Browns' draft plan was to get Richardson and then get a wide receiver and then trade back into the first using that 37th pick and get Weeden. The Browns have come out publicly and said they had 3 receivers that were worth a first or second round grade for them. And unfortunately, the third of those receivers got picked at 20th overall. So what do? You can either try and get cute and use that 22nd pick to trade down maybe into the 30 range, grab yourself an extra 5th round pick, and then potentially possibly miss out on Whedon. Or you can just get him there. It's safe. You lose out on that, low compensation to move down a few spots, but you make sure you get your guy. And this entire draft hinges on what Whedon does. In fact, this entire team hinges on how well Whedon does. If we had taken that risk, dropped down for maybe a 5th rounder, or taken somebody else at 22 and just hoped he'd be around at 37 and missed out on him, then this entire franchise is in big trouble. Their entire plan revolves around getting Whedon, getting the guys to make him successful. So we really couldn't risk anything. I'm not too mad at them for grabbing him at 22 overall. I don't think he would have been there at 37. Even if he was, it's not a risk you're going to take with the guy that's going to start at quarterback. As a prospect, he's great. He's got great arm, great accuracy. He's competitive. He's smart. If not for his age, he would have been a top 10 to 15 pick. But here's the thing. Quarterbacks don't automatically expire when they hit a certain age. It's not the age that gets him. It's the tread on the tires. This guy played baseball for a few years, and that's a few years where he wasn't getting tackled. He wasn't getting hit. His body completely healed. And you know what? He went into the last 2 years of college football completely healed. And that's something that no one else in this draft had a chance to do. So he may have a lot of tread left on his tires. We'll have to see. He's a big, tough guy that can take a hit. And honestly, just watching him play, I hate to say this, but he reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger. He has the same look, the same body style. He's leaner than Ben, but I think NFL weight room will fix that problem real quick. Our entire team's hopes and our draft hinge on how well he does. Next picks I want to talk about is Mitchell Schwartz, our right tackle. He came from Cal. He's tight with Alex Mack. He's a technique guy. He's not a physical standout by any means. But you know what? NFL weight rooms kind of fix that, because now he is 24/7 an NFL player. He doesn't have to worry about school. He doesn't have to worry about anything else. He just has to get in that weight room, work out. He's immediately going to start at right tackle. I don't think it's any kind of oversight to say that. And I really think he's going to lock down that position, give us talent there that we haven't seen in years. And hopefully he'll be there for a decade. He's a guy that you plug in immediately and we don't worry about him. Hopefully. The next pick was my most hated pick in the draft. John Hughes, defensive tackle. I hated this. And you know why? I didn't watch tape on every draftable prospect. I didn't watch anything on this guy. And you know what? Nobody else did either. A backup defensive tackle with a 3rd round pick. I mean, that drives me nuts. I couldn't find a good rating on him anywhere on the web. None of the professional mock drafters liked him. They all thought he was, a 6th, 7th round guy, maybe a free agent type guy. So, I tried to figure out why. And you know what? Honestly, I doubt anybody watched any film, anybody who's not paid by an NFL club, put it that way, watched any film on him just to watch him. They probably turned on Derek Wolfe, same school, watched Derek Wolfe making all the splash plays, and Hughes really doesn't do anything. He doesn't make a splash. He's not a sack guy. He's not a tackle behind the line guy. So I watched the cut-ups that Sloppy J posted of his bowl games, and you know what he is? He's a tree stump. You're not going to move him. He's at where he's at. If you run near him, he'll trip you up. He'll make the tackle. He's not going to make the play if the play doesn't come to him. He's not a pass rusher. He's not a pursuit guy. But if you try and run the ball near him, he'll be the guy that ends the play. Nobody's going to get any push on him off the line. So, I mean, he is what he is. The upside of him is You need a guy in the AFC North to help stop the run. This guy is a run-stopping specialist. And you keep Ruben and Phil Taylor fresh. I mean, as a rotational guy, I'm really warming up to him. Not to mention the fact that we traded down to get him, and in that trade down, we got back similar picks to what we traded to move up to get Trent Richardson. So, you got to look at it that way. We traded down, got a bunch of picks, and a guy who's going to give Ruben and Taylor a nice breather without losing any of our run support too much. So I'm really kind of warming up to him. We'll see how he does when he gets on the field. But I'm really, after looking through and understanding it, I'm really kind of seeing what the club thought of him. Not only is he a run stopper, but he makes our great DTs, who will be great, I believe, better by keeping them fresh. The last guy I want to talk about is Travis Benjamin, the wide receiver that we took. He's a fourth-round pick. He's a one-trick pony. We're not going to use him to go over the middle. He's not going to make a bunch of great catches in traffic. His one thing that he does is he goes deep and he gets open. He blows the top right off the defense. And he's the only receiver that we have on our team right now that is actually a real deep threat. That's very important. We were last in the league in 20-yard plays last season. That's got a lot to do with our quarterback and our wide receiving core. And this guy might be the cure for that. I mean, he'll just go deep. Every time he's on the field, he has one job. Go deep, take a cornerback with you, maybe get safety to back up off the line of scrimmage and cover him over the top. He didn't get highly ranked by almost any scouts or draftables because he is not a broad skill set guy. He's not a guy that can do a lot of things for you. He does one thing, but he does it really well. The best comparison I can make for him is if you remember the greatest show on turf that the Rams had when they went to the Super Bowl. They had two great receivers, Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, and then they had this other guy, Azazeer Hakeem, and all he did was go deep and get touchdowns and get huge splash plays. Now, we don't have Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt on our team, but this guy is very similar to Azazeer Hakeem. We're going to use him the exact same way. He's going to get deep. He's going to draw the safeties off the line of scrimmage, make things easier for Trent Richardson, and get that one-on-one matchup and get under those deep balls. So after that, we drafted a lot of guys who are mainly depth guys and special teamers, but some of them are pretty decent that may grow into be more. The last guy that we drafted, Brad Smelly, this draft pick was for soup. He's finally got a guy that he can call an H-back. Smelly played mostly at tight end, but he did some lead blocking for Trent Richardson. And honestly, for me, that tells me that Owen Marisic is on notice. He better step up his play in 2012 because we did draft a guy who could play some fullback. But I expect with our 5th or 7th round picks, I expect our special teams to improve. We've got some really good special teamers and also some guys that are going to challenge for starting roles, maybe not this season, but in a couple seasons down the road. So that's it. That's understanding what the Browns were thinking. Now, I'm not going to grade the draft. I'm not going to criticize it. Just trying to think what they were thinking. And when you do that, these picks make sense. That's it for me. Dog Bones. See you later.